Hey guys, Stealth here. As a Patreon supporter, you can request me to have a look at your deck, and that's exactly what Trajanus did here. He asked me to have a look at his 10v10 Scandinavian armor deck. So we're talking a map like Asgard, we're talking a map like Gjol, lots of terrain, and especially open terrain in the case of Asgard. And he wants to take all of that terrain with a armored deck. Now with the Scandinavians you have some pretty decent armor, although they are lacking a little bit in the medium tank department. So I'm saying, let's say the difference between 90 and 155 points, as you can see in tanks, is usually filled by some 120, 140 point tanks. But still, these things are really nice. So let's have a look at his deck, see if there's anything left to improve. He has a fob, which is something that you could find debatable. Sometimes you may not need a fob. Lately I've been playing some 10v10 tacticals or some 10v10s, and you don't always need to have a fob there, as you are a very mobile deck, and you don't want to have to micromanage those helicopters flying back to a specific fob, micromanaging that and then telling them to come back. And yes, you can do this with a simple keystroke, but it's still going to take your hand off, or mostly your focus off of the battle that is developing. So you could argue that you don't need a fob. Now it depends on how much support he has. He does have some Recon 1Cs, and this means that I will be sticking with the fob, because the artillery is usually very prone to eating stuff from a fob. You can support them and supply them from base logistics units, but a fob for one card is going to get you more. One fob, so that's one card, is going to give you 16,000 supplies, whereas for example taking out 9 Scanias at 1100 is not going to get anywhere close to that. The HKP-4 Alpha gets 9 helicopters, that's only 9,000 supplies. So a fob is going to give you a lot more. Then for command vehicles, he has the Strip EV90, the Rover KPV. This gives you 12 command vehicles, and I find that to be a bit much in a 10v10. What I would go with is the Strip EV90 as the, let's say, the base capture vehicle, and then go for the 103B command tank. Because sometimes you're going to want to push into one of those heavily contested zones, and you just don't have any way to do it. The 103B is more heavily armored than the M48A5 or the Centurion. And not just that, it's also better off-road and it's small, meaning harder to hit. So we're going to have this one there as a, let's say, a frontline tanker. And no, not frontline in the sense where it's going to kill stuff, but frontline in the sense where it's going to be able to capture those forward positions. Now infantry is mainly a fire support / cheap recon squad here. He has some LRECs, which are the AA missile systems. Look good at that. He has 14 Leogardens, which I'm not sure if you need them in this transport, but sometimes you will want to take a town. And then for the longer range operations you have the Panzerskiten, the SRF 9040. Nothing I would change there. You could argue that you want to get the Panzerskiten 90, which get the AT4. This is really a bit of personal preference. You see, the Panzerskite base has the Carl Gustav M2, which sacrifices 1 point of armor penetration comparative to the 90 version. You do get more accuracy, but your rate of fire is cut in half. That's a big trade-off, and I find that the Panzerskite 90 usually is a bit better for attacking, because they're going to be closing into enemy vehicles anyway, than the Panzerskite base. And I believe it does not do anything for your availability. No, it's still the same, 14 or 9. So we're going to upgrade those to the Panzerskite 90. Because if you're attacking, you want to have that high rate of fire. Supports. The automatic, of course, this has to be in here. Then the EOTS iHawk, a couple of AMOS units, and a Recon 1C. I would like to get another AA unit, because by far the biggest threat to your tank deck is helicopters, is air units. So if we can free up some 3 points and some other category, I'm definitely going to do so, because we will be needing more AA. Then onto the tanks, we get the STRV 121, basically a beefed up Leopard 2A4, and it has a very good gun. It just does not have very good frontal armor, and that's something that the whole Scandinavian deck seems to struggle with. You don't get a lot of good frontal armor. This means that you're going to have to either kill whatever's firing at you very quickly, or constantly pull these things off of the front line and get them fixed up. Now, with 6 of these tanks, and of course you won't be fielding these all at the same time, you can get a lot of fire on target. You can get a lot of high penetration fire on target with the 23 AP that we see there. But you're still not really using a super heavy, because a super heavy to me, for example, is the T72BU. The T80U, I think, is 155 points, or one of its T80 brethren. And the T80U, the T72BU, the Leopard 2A5, the Challenger 2, those tanks just outclass this thing. And that is something that you will have to keep in mind as you're going to be facing them on the battlefield. But then again, it's the only super heavy we got on this deck. Then, as I mentioned, we're going to see a big leap from 155 to 90 points. Massive gap. The 103D tanks, or the 103 versions, are really good vehicles. You do get a decent amount of them. I would personally upvet them to Elite, because you have 75 tanks in this deck. You have plenty. The 103D has a great rate of fire, 15 rounds a minute, and it is very good in an ambush position. It is not very good at attacking, because it doesn't have a stabilizer. If it sits still, it's going to be very accurate. If it's moving, it's not going to fire at all. So that's why I call these things ambush tanks. And unfortunately, that is the highest level tank that we have next to the 121. You also get the 103C. He has 16 of these at Elite. They are only slightly inferior to the 103D version. You're missing 5% accuracy, you're missing 1 point of armor penetration, you're missing 2 points of frontal armor. Everything else is pretty much the same. Still, these things combined have a lot of punch, but it is only 16, which means that against some of those more heavily armored tanks, you're going to struggle. Then, I'm seeing 18 Leopard 1A5 NO, and he also has the Leopard 1A5 NO2. I think he has too many tanks. At least I don't go through 75 tanks. And that's why I'm going to start deleting a few of them. I'm not going to go through 16 103Cs, so I'm going to delete one of those cards. The Leopard 1A5 NO2 and the NO versions are so similar that you can go with one of them. You don't need the two of them. The NO2 has a little bit more frontal armor and 1 point of armor penetration. Everything else is the same. A save for autonomy, which is 50 kilometers more. Well, big deal. The NO2 is far superior, or well, slightly superior to the 1A5 NO. And that's why I'm not going to get 18 of these. And actually, I might just delete them all together. Yeah, I'm going to delete the 1A5 NO. You know what, I'm just going to build a custom lineup, because I always have these things ascending from high point to low point. So we're going to go with one card of the 103D, one card of 103C. Then I want to have one card of the Leopard 1A5 NO2. These things are very fast, very mobile, high rate of fire. They don't have as much frontal armor as the 103C or the 103D, but not by much, only 3 points. Then the 105, very accurate unit, 70%. That's even better than the main gun on your 121, which is, well, it's a bit weird as far as I'm concerned. Very nice amount of armor penetration. They have a pretty damn good off-road speed for a tank of this type. 12 of those. And then I want to have something that's slightly cheaper, and something that can still provide fire support to my advancing troops, function as a semi-meat shield, something like that. Now, you could go for the Leopard 1NO. It still has that 10 rounds a minute rate of fire. It still has a decent amount of accuracy and decent amount of armor penetration. But the one that I prefer is the Leopard 1A3. Very good accuracy. You are sacrificing a little bit of range, and your armor penetration and rate of fire are still really good. So this is going to be one that's supporting positions where I don't particularly need to field one of those heavier vehicles. Gives me 55 tanks, and that should be plenty. Recon. I'm seeing 2 Recon Helos, which I think is a bit much. Recon Helos are usually very, very fragile vehicles, and they're also relatively expensive to ground-based vehicles. So I'm going to delete the Scout Defender, because usually those rocket pods don't do you any good anyway. You could go for the Wildcat, which is an autocannon wielding, well, basically I believe it's an M113. You could go with the the M41 DK. I really, really like this one, as it can be surprisingly effective. It may not look like much, it may be old, but it has 60% accuracy. That's better than some of the tanks we have. 10% stabilizer, so whatever you do, don't fire this thing when you're moving. 10 points of armor penetration, you can field a decent number of them. So we're going to field one of those. They do have only good optics, so keep that in mind. He has the Fallschirmjäger in the HKP-4C. I usually try to spot these guys, or spot with these guys, just from ground-based vehicles. And I don't need them to be shock troops at that. So you could, if you want to go with shock troops, go for the GGB-13. Or you could go with some of the cheaper infantry. This is going to cost you 25 points, this is going to cost you only 20 points. And you, I believe you don't get more of them. No, availability is the same. Right, okay. I'm going to go with 7 in a ground-based vehicle. That's another 25 point recon unit, 20 plus 5. But it is more capable of getting away quietly. EPBV-90 at exceptional optics. I really like them. They are just pretty damn fragile. So be very, very careful as you're using these things. Vehicles, IKV 105. Again, cheap fire support units, can be used as a meat shield in case you're up against a lot of HGMs. NM 142 is something that we might need. The IKV 105 is something that we basically already have covered in the tank card in that one, the 1A3DK. The IKV 105 has more armor penetration, the same level of accuracy, it has a lot less armor, it has the same speed, it has medium optics. It's only going to cost you 5 points less, but armor penetration is not the problem. So I'm going to delete that card, and that way I can free up a few, I can free up a few more points for the Scandi Armor AA support. We have enough missiles, or at least we should. So I'm going to go for the LV KV-90, another AA gun, 7 of those. Then we're going to delve back into the tank section, and you can again get another tank card, if you so choose. I don't think we can spend it anywhere else. No. Okay. So let's see, what is a tank that I would like. Please don't take the Chaffee, the M24. 200 autonomy on a big map is going to cause you a lot of trouble. So in this situation, okay, I'm going to delete those. I'm going to add another card of 103Cs. And yes, this is just my OCD. I want to have these things lined up from high to lower. I had this one. I had the 105, and then I had that one, I believe. Really? No, that one. There. So now we have everything ranging from the highest point tank to the lowest point tank. Helos, Fennec Tow 2. Really nice, fast helicopter, very small size, hard to hit. 6 HE or 6 strength means it will not go down instantly to 4 HE missiles. So you're good with that. And then the Fennec 20mm. These are surprisingly versatile units. When I first saw these types, also from the British, I thought, well, they're not going to be very good. Well, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. These things are actually very effective. As far as air goes, we have the Vigan. Not sure why you'd want to have a lot of cluster bombs, considering we have a lot of armor penetration potential in the tank section. The MLU is a tank sniper. This is something that I do want to have. If I have a super heavy that is threatening those those STRV 121s, I'm not able to kill them with the MLU. So the Vigan is out. Puff as a seed aircraft, and you get 3 of these at rookie, although I think 2 at hardened is better. Fighting Falcons, 2 of these with the 1000 kilogram bombs. And that leaves me with 1 more unit that I can pick. I'm not particularly fond of the JAS-39 Gripen, but it is really the only higher priced fighter that we can get. Short of the F-16... Oh, actually, let's have a look. F-16 AM2. Range is the same on all areas. Turning radius 300-300, exceptional ECM 40-40. Time over target is a bit better for the F-16. And this one has the Mauser autocannon versus the Vulcan autocannon. It's a little bit less accurate. It has a low rate of fire. It has lower suppression. Okay, the F-16 AM2 wins on account of its autocannon. And then naval, although you won't really encounter that a lot. At least not on the maps that I'm thinking of. If you want to take this into a 10v10 straight to the point, that's of course a whole different issue. In that case, I would never bring the Type 21, because these things go down to a few missiles. They are very, very bad at defending themselves. The Tomcat can work, because the faster you can intercept enemy anti-tank planes, the better. The Super Hornets, the F-111G. I'm also going to add, where is it? The CF-18 ASUW for more anti-ship missiles. And then 1 single Congo is no good. So you can go with any specific preference for this type of situation. What I like to do is go with 1 card of cheap infantry. Talking of cheap infantry, this is cheap infantry, but this is not really what I was looking for. So many units here. Of course I could use the selector, but whatever. There. The Panzerskita 90. I'm going to take 16 of those. Now, why infantry? Well, sometimes, and it's not often, but sometimes you want to have landing craft, so that you can use the LCMs, those landing craft mechanized, to make sure that your tanks can float over to an island. Something that I recently encountered in Smoke in the Water, or Smoke on the Water. And this lineup will allow you to take down enemy ships using the Super Cobras, the Super Hornet, the ASUW CF-18s, and the F-111G, intercept enemy aircraft at long range with the Tomcats, and land forces, both infantry from this tab, and tanks using the transports that these guys are using. So this is the deck that I would build. It's slightly different from Trajana's initial deck, but let's see how this thing performs in conflict, as I'm going to be starting up or looking up a 10v10 right now. So bear with me, and I'll be right back. Alright, small change of plans I'm afraid, as I've been trying to get a game for a good 45 minutes. All 10v10s are currently way too empty, so you're going to be getting this 10v10 gameplay from the Scandinavian armor deck later on. For now, the deck code is in the description down below, and as mentioned, the gameplay will actually follow later. Possibly in the weekend, when there is more users on Wargame, because it's just hard to fill up a 10v10 these days. Anyway, more on that later. Let me know what your thoughts are on this deck for the moment, and I'll see those comments soon down below. Thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for the next video.